there we go.
Thanks, Tommy. That's great.
Okay, so I think if everyone will mute, then we can start. So if you'd like to share the recording, so we're going to hear the Opus 120 Schubert in A major, known as the Little A major, the first movement, and then we'll talk about what you'd like to get out of the session. Okay.
Can you see that, everyone?
Yes, I can. Great. Very nice job. So I just want to remove the pin and wait. I need you back. Sorry. There you are. Okay, great. So now I have both. Wonderful. So, I mean, I have my certain ideas about the movement, some of which you may agree with or disagree with, but I also want to ask if there's something in particular that you want to ask or that you've been challenged by with this movement.
Well, it was a very quick study, so I haven't had a lesson with Edna with it really. So it was. I still feel like I'm in the stages of. It doesn't flow all that well. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I have everything programmed in quite properly yet for this piece. So I find myself concentrating quite a lot. I don't. Maybe I'm missing a bit of shaping here and there, because it's a little bit disjointed, if you know what I mean. So I kind of stop one section and then I find that I have to move myself to the next one. But on the whole, I just find my playing a bit boring. So if somebody could breathe some life into it, it'd be helpful.
Oh, okay. So I think so there, what I like about it is that there are the sort of the gentle feelings associated with the movement that I think that you're feeling. There are a few things I would invite you to consider.
Yeah.
The first is that tempo marking it's an allegro moderato.
Yeah.
And when I stepped back to listen to you playing, it sounded very much like an andante to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so in this Schubert Opus 120, I think he's very specific about what he wants in terms of tempo. And also, it's very interesting to look at the key signature. It's not in 2, it's a common, it's in 4/4. But inherent in the 4/4 would be the 1 and the 3 are a little bit more where he's swinging to. So, you know, it's a kind of trite thing to tell someone, okay, well, make it lilt. But how do we do that really? And I think what has to happen on 2 levels. One is on the conceptual level. Like, how are you perceiving the movement of the music and how are you going to go about making that happen? Okay. So I think it's important to understand where are you moving to first, you know, and then using the work or the technique to service that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you see what it caused you to do is that certain sections of the movement would not work in your original tempo, so you just changed tempo.
I did, yeah.
So I think that of course it's not played metronomically, Schubert's not metronomically, but it's interesting how closely you can relate to the basic pulse and still just have variation of the basic pulse, but how much of it works there. The other thing, you know, just as a kind of general thing, he's very specific when he writes diminuendo and decrescendo. Diminuendo includes slowing down a little bit in Schubert, right, and the decrescendo does not. And I think that you take some liberties that actually don't help the overall affect. One in particular, if we go right to the end, I think it's one of the most beautiful endings when you do the sort of tag or the codetta. This whole moment. But if you slow down so much here, it kind of ruins the effect of it. I would wrap this up. And then give us the codetta. there are certain things with breathing and in the way in which you come in that we can work on. So when you begin the piece, I think what's very difficult about this opening is that we have to hear very clearly, but we have those notes. So I think the voicing could be a little bit better. You know, put a little bit more maybe. Are you going 4/5, 5, or 3/4/5?
3/4/5.
Yeah, 3/4/5. I would say if the hand is big enough, is a very good fingering. But like we talk about, the melody is not really in a sense totally connected to itself because you're going 4, 1, 2, 5. So can you voice these two notes much softer?
Yeah.
So we can really arrive on the E.
Hang on, I'm just changing my camera. Is that better?
Yeah, great.
Okay. So.
Okay. Also,
a little bit then.
Yeah, the difficulty here is if you start the first note as a physical down, that's an upbeat figure. So it's very hard to get across the bar line when this is down. So it's as if, you know, very often in mainstream musical circles, people will say, oh, you know, you sit there and the piece is going on already and you just join it and all that stuff. And that's great. As an image, it's great. As in reality, what does it mean? It means physically, if you play with the arm going down on the first note, you've ruined that kind of vision or that ability to have that feeling. It is very much in this piece like you're joining something that has been going on. So I would suggest there's a breath before the upbeat, which brings you over the bar line, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Another little thing, I think because the thumb is playing, I'll show you from above, because, well, I will show you from above as soon as my camera's on. I think that, yeah, because we have to go to the thumb, you're starting too far out. Now, what it does musically is it creates a kind of abrupt moment when you have to move into that thumb. So I would actually start very inside with the fourth finger, third finger, and be much more inside. Good. And I wouldn't come out as much as you do. You're making a very big out motion on the second finger. It's absolutely what happens there, but the second finger is really very far in.
Okay.
Good. So now that you have the physical means, can you really voice? So we really hear that E, which has to sustain a half bar. Good. Okay. And now I'm going to ask you to do something to help it move. I would like you to think that you're creating the C sharp and the E from the D. As a fast triplet. Can you try that?
I can't.
Right. So that you have it in your hand. Much better. Okay. That's it. That's it. That's wonderful. I mean, I think if the beginning doesn't grab us musically, it's very difficult to recover from that.
Yeah.
You know, so several things here. Not starting the first note down, starting it a little bit on the up, and really relating the two notes that you're going to break in the chord to the D itself. That's coming after it, and so then you'll be able to voice it, and then the final element is really projecting that top note. Okay, very good. And then what's helping you here is the movement of the left hand. It has to be very quiet, very legato, but it has to move. 2, 1, 2. And the second measure has an interesting agogic because I'd like you to feel that sixth. The sixth is so beautiful and so sweet. So what you can do there to bring it out is there's a slight undershape there. So you're coming here, and that will help it project. And it's interesting, when it has sort of a shape to the left hand, then you don't feel like you have to play it too loudly, because some of the measures, I almost heard it almost like as if it were in 8, like dee da dee da dee da dee da dee, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that's underlying the whole feeling of Schubert's movement and his lilt and everything, is going to make it very difficult for the listener to experience the music as flowing, quote unquote, no matter how much you would feel it. And I'm sure that the feeling also can come when the physicality allows for it, you know. So it's a package deal in a way, right? So so what I would suggest is, you know, Taubman, she had some very interesting ideas about things like this. She would say to me something like, okay, if you had one chance on the stage of Carnegie Hall to prove to the whole audience that you were musical, how would you play that left hand? And I found it to be very helpful in the back of my mind, because we can think of these things as just something that's just filling time. But when you really think about the musicality of it, you have that second, the minor second on the bottom, that you might want to emphasize slightly. So I'm just pointing it out to maybe take time in your practicing to just experience the beauty of that left hand, and then to make it very, very soft.
Okay.
So we don't have to dwell on that. Is there so I can go on with kind of my ideas, but you can also ask me any question you'd like.
No, you carry on. Thanks, Bob.
My feeling is that the you know, Schubert's moods change very quickly, and I didn't think when you arrived here that we got the real sort of intensity of that movement to this new keys, just a sort of key center. Can you come into it, maybe just even from here? Yeah, I'm not so sure that I would relax it so soon. I think if you relax it, you lose the contrast of this. You know, he's bringing this in pianissimo. I also would take a risk. I would not pedal. It gives a completely different color to the music. So I noticed, and it was good that you had the camera from the side, because I noticed all of this was pedal. And I actually would invite you to consider taking it off and not being so wedded to the pedal as a constant pedal all the time.
Yeah. So you mean in the pianissimo, or in the entire?
Yeah.
So pedal here.
No, pedal here.
Yeah.
And I think even here, pedal here. It's right here. We can also touch on the points of what's difficult in this work is the continuation of sound. You know, we have to have this in our ear, and we can't come in here in a way that breaks the line. So we're coming from the disappearing sound, and then does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
In other words, listening maybe, that also helps the overall sense of the music going forward. What Taubman used to refer to as the inevitability of the music. How one thing really brings you to another thing. Instead of feeling like I just played this and now I'm playing this.
Yeah.
There has to feel a feeling like, oh, I want to play this because of how I just played that. You know, it's a way of thinking that I found very helpful in moving forward through a piece. Do you want to try the thing with the pedal, taking the pedal off?
Sure.
Yes, very nice. I think the contrast comes across much better. We only have a few minutes really. I just wanted to say if we went to the part after the scale, this can you not have the downbeat so heavy when it goes into the triplets? Because what I think the intention here is to go actually all the way to the long note. So you have now this all goes to the downbeat, to the half bar, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of what chops the phrase, if we do a new beginning here, then it starts to sound like all one measure at a time. So to get out of that, kind of think of the second measure, think of it really in two measures, but the second measure really going to the half bar. You want to try that?
Yeah, sure.
Much better. Much better. See, once you go to the half bar, it times the next thing also, because then it brings us to here.
Brilliant.
Good. Another place I would have a little bit more courage with taking off the pedal would be in the octaves. Maybe the last two, don't pedal them. Now, also this sounded very much broken in four. It's really one line. All the way actually to the downbeat. Can you feel a little bit more? What's a yeah, I think it's your last.
Sorry.
I think it's your last two 16th notes that sit. I think what I hear is this. Something sits there. So in terms of shaping, can you make it a 3-note shape? Much better. Much better, because we've got to get over the bar line.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though, from a physical point of view, this is not an ending. This is this is really a beginning. And then we go.
Shall I do it again? Or?
Sure. See, you can do two measures now, because relate to the last note as it goes on.
Messed that one up.
Yeah, do it again. But you see what, it's good. Actually, this is very good. It's disrupting something that you've been used to.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be that moment of being out of control, that's actually very good learning. It means you're allowing a new idea to come in. So don't be sorry about that. That's a good thing that happens.
Okay.
Right. See, these are very big surges. Okay. I'm not saying rush or not to have the pulse understood, but it still is one idea. It's one gesture. And then eventually arriving at the E, the climax. So I hope that that's a few ideas about we referred to the tempo issues. We referred to how to start on the upbeat might be helpful in other places. Yeah. How to kind of digest the accompanimental figures in a way that brings a kind of shape and melody to it, but then makes it very soft. How to experiment a little bit with the pedal. Maybe some places just have the courage to take the pedal off and see what you hear, and then if you don't like it, you put pedal. And then other places I would say not to slow down so much. There are of course places to breathe, but the ends of things slowing down as much I probably wouldn't do. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left, and I was going to go over this intermediate piece. I don't know if somebody put it in the chat, but it's definitely on there's a folder for it. So let's go to that. So I thought that this would be obviously a good piece for, obvious reasons. It's a very good piece for somebody working on arpeggios, really at almost any level, but I would say at an intermediate level, where it's not only the arpeggio, but it brings up an issue. It brings up an issue of what happens between the arpeggios, which is a very good learning experience. So what I mean by that is, we'll get to it in the first measure, actually. So I just wanted to lay the idea that the value here is in the arpeggio, but it's also in the connecting material, how we get from one place to another. So in starting this piece, one thing I want to say is that I'm not giving actually a recipe for teaching it. What I'm trying to do is show as much of the intended problems that somebody might have, so you can be on the lookout. If you're watching your student play or something and you see that those things are there, I wouldn't break it apart and teach it. So it's always a question of putting in what isn't there. But in order to put in what isn't there, we need a kind of thorough understanding of what's actually happening in the passage. So one of the things about starting this, because it starts in front of the body, is that the thumb itself will not be outside the hand like this. So the thumb itself in the beginning is actually under the second finger. So I think that that's a very good point, because the fingering that we're doing at the beginning is 2, 2, 3, 1. If the thumb is here, this is already too late to get to the thumb easily. So it's one of the situations where the actual starting has the thumb behind the second finger. I would be looking to see that they began the passage with an out forward to the F and an in to the thumb. So that in and of itself will facilitate the beginning. Also, if we're talking shape, it's a 3-note shape to begin. So there is a little bit of walking hand and arm, the lateral movement, obviously the rotation, the preparatory motion, the single to the F, and the single to the G. So rotationally speaking, not very complicated. The in and out is the out forward to the in, and the shape is a 3-note shape. Coming to this arpeggio, it's a classic scale shape. So I'm getting higher to the 4th finger, coming down to the thumb. And then we have to talk about what happens next. So at first, I thought, well, it's a very good situation for an undershape going here because I have several notes that will bring me back to the thumb. And it didn't feel terrible, but it felt a little bit unsure of getting back somehow. So I thought it through and I thought, well, what if we just have this as an over back? So the connecting material here doesn't go under first. It's an over shape to the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 notes, and 1, 2, 3, 4 back to the thumb. So I thought that was very interesting, but it's from a pedagogical point of view, the most prominent feel is the rotation back. So what I would be looking for in the student is, do they have in their system a strong enough single that sends the arm back? Now, if they're saying they have a strong single, but they're somehow missing, let's say they have a strong single, but they're missing. What I would start to think is, okay, what else would be involved there? The walking hand and arm. So somehow with that rotation and the distance, the arm didn't come along with it laterally. So I would be checking the lateral movement of the walking hand and arm. And then the next one is exactly the same. This is the same. So I would say, I would be looking for that. There are also if we go back to the very beginning in the first full measure, there are the other issues of crossing that I would be looking for. So I always come on the left side of the pianist to see if the arpeggio is going up, what's happening in the thumb. I don't have a camera on that side, but I can show you if we were going the other direction. So one of the things that I'm always looking for is, does the thumb release as part of the rotation? So in this situation, do I see the person let go of the key, but the thumb stays here? Or do I see the person let go of the key and the thumb moved over? That's crucial to me. And then, as we know with the 4th finger crossing to the thumb, when we play the 4th finger rotationally, it is the moment that the thumb lifts under the hand to get us the rest of the way. So there is a movement under the hand when we play the 4th finger that further gets us over. We're moving the walking hand and arm over. I've talked about the in and out already. Out, forward, in. I would be looking for the release of the thumb and the walking hand and arm. I think that covers in the first one all of the aspects. When we go to the second line first measure, you do have 2 choices. There is the possibility of doing 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, which is a little bit of the more preferred fingering. So I would stick with that. If you do the other fingering in the book, it's not terrible, but I would say this moment is not as nice. Having to get inside like this, kind of have to be a little bit careful with how you get in. I would definitely do the fingering written in that I put in. 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3. I'm always looking in situations like this, what's the person doing from 5 to 1? Because people could, without seeing, they could be trying to connect it. For some reason, sometimes people think all fingers have to be connected. So I would be looking for, is this letting go? Now, I try to make the distinction with people, what is a staccato leap versus what is just letting go? letting go is something that we would never hear, and you don't even really feel it because the shape is continuing and the let go is so minimal that you don't actually experience it. It's something you know is there because if you try to fully connect, you'll feel that you can't play. So it's kind of something that you come to in comparison to absolute legato. So it has to be disconnected enough to be comfortable, but not to feel like, oh, you've lost the piano. So I would say that that's very, very important. The piece, if we go to the third line, gives us another opportunity to do a different kind of in and out. Here, coming out to the second finger, I'm going forward to the black key. So that's very nice. You have an opportunity to teach that different kind of in and out. Forward to the F sharp, and we know very often when we go forward on a long finger in a crossing, that puts the arm over that note, and it puts the thumb in the right position to play. So we don't have to add an additional in to the thumb. The forward stress, as we call it, or forward balance, is really there just to make sure that there's no feeling of falling off the instrument. That's what you're guarding against. You're not trying to really look for a movement. You're just trying to make sure the person feels secure on that thumb note. If they feel secure, I probably wouldn't say anything. But if there's a mistake there or an unevenness there or something that seems disruptive, I would make sure that they understood that they're just supposed to really go down and be balanced over the keyboard. That's the function of that marking. We have a few minutes left. If we go to the left hand, if you turn the page, I wanted to say one small thing about this. There are times when we have to start an arpeggio depending on what's coming next, and we have to come out to the 4 and then go in. But this is a case when we come from here, we can get out far enough that the 4 and the 2 are forwards. I think I marked them in. So this is an in and out that's very helpful, that you wouldn't come out again. So it comes out to the 5 and it's forward, forward. Of course, we're rolling over. You're looking for all of the correct things. How the arm rolls over the finger. There's no reaching of the finger over the key. There's no twisting. And then the moment you turn back is interesting. If you were to just turn back where you are, this would be very far away and most likely twist. So in this moment is the moment that the forearm, in addition to turning counterclockwise, shifts over slightly to make it easier to get the rest of the way. So that's the wonky handed arm that we talk about when we say it's almost occurring in two different directions in relationship to rotation, because the rotation is turning to the left, but I'm shifting the arm closer to my torso, which is actually to the right. So we can have two different movements occurring in two different systems of the motions. So in the system of rotation, I'm turning to the left. In the system of walking hand and arm, I'm shifting to the right. Some fingering choices, second system, last measure. It didn't feel so great to roll over and back. It felt complicated. I thought a better solution is just go to the 4 again and do the 5-5. So that felt much better to me. You can try the fingering and see what you think. From there, moving in to prepare for the F sharp. So I'm on the lookout in the teaching. Are they moving in, or are they moving in suddenly? Or does it seem like it's flowing? Now here, two options. You can do 4-5-5, or some hands, if you come out to the 3, you can get to the 3-4-5. next moment, this is on the third page, first system, second measure. Here is something that sometimes is confusing to people. They think, which way should they play the interval? In this case, the octave rotates counterclockwise, and so do those intervals. So they're all toward the thumb. Left, 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 left. So that's that. Another issue that comes up very much is the second system of page 3, managing the left hand. We haven't talked about that so far in the piece, but here what's interesting is you have two different ways of managing this passage within the passage, meaning when I start the passage, I'm rolling over the thumb. That's actually a hybrid. But when I go back, it's a double rotation. So I look for that. Sometimes people get very confused, and you'll see that they exit this way, and then when they get to the octave, it's very confused. They can somehow miss or whatever. Going from the chord to the octave with the thumb is a double. Going from the octave to the chord, even though it's thumb-thumb, this is a hybrid. So I think that gives you some things to look for and to work into someone's technique in a kind of condensed way that might be helpful in the teaching. So I think we will finish there to be on time, and have a wonderful day. I know there's exciting lectures and classes the rest of the day. Pleasure to see you all virtually. I look forward to the time we can be together. So have a wonderful day.